Good evening, family. I'm Sean. I'm an addict. It's a good day to be clean. I'm always grateful for another day clean. I thank the God of my understanding for that. Appreciate it, man. It's good to be here, man. I'm nervous as hell, but after a few cuss words, man, I kind of tone right down, man. I'm truly humbled and grateful, man. I want to say thankful to the committee that put this together, right, and asking this addict to come down here to share his experience, strength, and hope, man. I would like to say thank you to everybody that had a part to play in this. The second NA Superfest, man. My topic is a change is going to come, right? And I'm probably one of the newest members into the 30 club now. Like, I just celebrated 30 years, February the 19th. So, so this is probably one of the first times I get a chance to speak first, right? Because normally, I guess it's courtesy when those with more clean time go last, right? So I'm kind of honored because in my area, right, it's not a lot of folks that have 30 or more years, right? So I'm honored to go first, Seamus. When me and Mitch talked about, you can tell I'm nervous, right? Me and Mitch talked about what the topic was going to be, and I told him a change is going to come. That came, it came real quickly because I have to tell you this, right? The last time I was here was at the MACNA convention, and I spoke over in the other room over there by the restroom. And I came down from Columbia with me and two real good friend of mine, a brother by the name of Tony G and another brother by Charles, right? So we came down here that Saturday. It was the weekend of August, my mom's birthday, August 9th, 10th, and 11th. We came down, we took a road trip. We had a good time. We came down early Saturday morning, went back to Columbia late in the morning. So when we got back to Columbia, I told my friend Charles, I said, you take my car and you go home, and I'll get it from you tomorrow, which is Sunday. And he called me that Sunday, man. He said, I'm on my way to the hospital. I said, well, don't worry about the car. I'll go by there and pick it up. So later on in the afternoon, I went up to his house and I picked up the car. And later on that evening, I got a phone call said, you need to come to the hospital because Charles ain't going home. So after coming here that Saturday and enjoying a great convention, Sunday evening, we were standing around, one of my best friends named Charles, standing around his bed, watching his body go cold, waiting for him to take his last breath. So when I heard about this convention coming along, man, I told some friends, I said, man, I got to go down there and I got to share, because the last road trip that I took was with my friend Charles. The last road trip he took was that convention of MACNA. The last time he heard me to share was at MACNA. The last time he was able to smile was at an NA convention. The last folks that he was able to see before we went home to Columbia was another recovering addict. And now I'm back for the first time since he's passed away. So when you talk about a change is going to come, man, like I'm doing this for one of my best friends named Charles, but I'm doing this because, it's the something that we talk about that goes on in the meetings. Something happens when we get here. And it talks about, right, a spiritual awakening happens from the day that newcomer walks through the door. That first meeting, something happens, an awakening is made. So understanding where I'm at now with my recovery and not understanding back then about spiritual awakenings and a change, man, I realized today that we're talking about recovery is an act of change, right? In one's thinking, their behaviors, and their ideas. So when I came here at 23 years old, man, and I grew up inside of the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, right? Like, I didn't know about change other than the way that I was groomed as a kid coming up. So a lot of my behaviors was cultural upbringings because I was groomed how to tell a lie. I was groomed to understand that sometimes telling a lie seems to work easier than telling the truth. Because I can remember my mother saying, well, tell me the truth, Anthony, and I ain't gonna cut your ass. I told her the truth and still got my ass cut. I remember her telling me, say, everything was going to hell. You do this, you're going to hell. You do that, you're going to hell. So I was groomed in a lot of ways as I got older, cultural behaviors. So when I started using dope, man, I participated with people that use dope. Like, I didn't know how to roll my first joint. I ripped the papers up the first time I did it. But the more I did it, I got good at it. So I was groomed in a lot of behaviors that I had, not understanding that there was a better way or there was another way. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. So as I got older and I'm going through life and I'm not understanding that maybe dope might be a problem, right? I'm not understanding that my inability to accept personal responsibility was happening long before I got to Narcotics Anonymous. I understand now why I got kicked out of high school for drug paraphernalia with intent to produce and distribute. I understand now why I got kicked out of the Navy because they said, listen, we can't allow you to stay here because you smoke dope. But I had some behavioral issues that was going on. And to me, it seemed like I was able to endure the pain that came with the behaviors when I got high. So as I grew older, a change always came. Whether it was that person standing behind one of them big desks with a black dress on called a judge, you know? Whether it was somebody forcing me to say, listen, you either do this or here's the consequence. Whether I had one of those foxhole prayers that had good intentions, but I never seemed to get to the end result. A change was going to come. I remember my mother telling me, she said, you keep doing what you're doing, Anthony, so I'm going to stop you. How about desperation? How about pain? How about when you done get to the point where you done scrape the plate, rinse the bottle, and it just ain't no more, man, and all you left with is the feeling of, damn, I done fucked up again. How about that kind of pain that make you it'll motivate you to change something quick? It did for me. When you get tired of sleeping underneath cars running from drug dealers. When you get tired of seeing how like other people's life prospered and gradually got better and you just seem to be burning your wheels and you ain't going nowhere. And denial played a big factor in all of that, man, because in the course of it, I ain't got a problem. So if nothing changes, nothing changes. You can't fix something if you don't know something broke. Wasn't nothing broke. The only time something was broke is when the money and the dope was gone. I got here, man, I stand on a lot of people's shoulders. When I got clean back in 1990, man, they didn't have a lot of NA meetings back in a small town called Orangeburg, so we had to go to the other fellowship. And if you've been around that long, perhaps you understand when we talk about we went to the other fellowship. So there were 3 NA meetings in a town called Orangeburg, right? It was on Thursdays, I think Fridays, Thursdays, Saturdays and Sundays, something like that. I can't remember. But that was it. That was it, right? So what happened in my change in the beginning was, I remember asking a guy that I worked with, I said, I need a place to stay. He said, well, if it's all right with my brother, it's all right with me. I said, well, okay, well, who's your brother? Well, when he told me who his brother was, come to find out his brother was a guy that I owed money to when I was using. So I got to make a decision. Do I go and ask his brother, can I stay with him? Or do I go, oh, hell no, I ain't going to ask him. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. So I went and asked him, I said, hey man, I said, can I move in with you, man? I have no place to stay. He said, you can stay with me as long as you want, just can't use no dope. I didn't know I was talking to another recovering addict. I moved in with him February 19th of 1990, and I never used again. A change is gonna come. I had no idea that in the course of my using and running from drug dealers, that this recovering addict, a brother by the name of James, who has 31 years clean and still goes to meeting to this day, was gonna be there ready for me and allow me an opportunity to get clean. I moved in with him. We did everything together. We went to meetings together. We worked together. We stayed right in the middle of Cocaine Alley down in Orangeburg, but we didn't use no dope. A change is gonna come. Some old timers told us, said there was a bunch of young guys, and he told us, he said, listen, if you guys stick together, you never have to use again. 1990, 23 years old. I don't know anything else other than going down to South Carolina State College, chasing girls in college, ripping and running the street, you know, partying, having fun. I'm 23, man. Like, weed was just, Cheech and Chong was the shit back then, man. You know, that was it. Cheech and Chong movies, man. And then the Scarface movies and all that stuff came out. But these were the eras that I grew up in, and these were the activities that I associated myself in at 23 years old, you know. So you're talking about getting clean during a time where all your friends had something to do and they were having fun and they were partying, and you going, well, what the hell am I going to do at 23 and I ain't using? The change is going to come. See, now today I understand when Narcotics Anonymous says that any addict can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. I wanted to stop using the dope because I wanted to not feel the pain of what it felt like when the money and the dope was gone, but what I didn't want to change was the lifestyle. If I could have continued to use without feeling the pain of what it felt like when the money and dope was gone, I never would have stopped. But it's something about getting tired of putting on the shittiest, dirtiest, cleanest pair of underwear. It's something about when your mother tells you, I'll give you something to eat, but you can't stay here no more. It's something about when your daughter remembers how you slid on the floor and crawled up on the side of the bed and stole that money out of the mama's pocket and went and got high with it. And the next morning, her mom telling her to take her clothes off. You ain't taking pictures today because your crackhead daddy done smoked up your picture money. It's something about when you have a moment, that moment of clarity to reflect on the pain that you have caused others in the wake and in the aftermath of all of your decisions that you made, Sean, that you go, damn, something gotta be better than this. A change has gotta come, man. So I'm in Narcotics Anonymous. I'm 23 years old. I don't know how to have fun. And I remember a brother named Bill R, who will tell you to this day, who's going on and passed away. He tell you I got clean in 1976. It sounds very articulate, but that was my guy. He was like the uncle to the 4 young guys that got clean. And Bill told us, said, if y'all stick together, you never have to use again, man. And we all have stuck together since 1990. My brother Mike is 31 years. My brother James is on 31 years. I just celebrated 30 years. And we have one brother, he's still a part of the family. He just chose to just make some decisions for himself. And he chose to do some things that he wants to do, man. But we stuck together, man. And today, when we talk about no addict need die from a hazardous disease, man, I understand what it means today in my recovery. Some stuff got to change, though. See, I can't hold on to the lifestyle and want to be clean. I can't come in here and talk about practicing spiritual principles and don't know a damn thing about it. I can't come in here and say, hey, will you be my sponsor, but I don't put the work in to develop a relationship so that we can have a sponsor-sponsee relationship. A change has got to come. And the change is going to come. So I'm in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, right? And I find myself experiencing some pain clean after putting the dope down. Now, I didn't come here for this shit. I come here because y'all told me, right, it was the easier, softer way. But then you told me I had to put the work in. So even harboring some behaviors, man, that I didn't want to let go of, I found myself experiencing some pain clean, even though it wasn't using dope. So now that I found out that dope is just a symptom of my disease, right, I left with some behaviors. I got to do something about the behaviors. Because I can be in a fetal position crying clean. Because of my inability to accept personal responsibilities, I still don't want to let some shit go. Sometimes it's a sixth sense that feels good in doing some gritty, grimy shit. It's three things that's pertinent to my recovery. It's some stuff that I don't do no more. It's some stuff that I don't do as often. And it's some stuff that I ain't stopped doing. Sooner or later, the stuff that I ain't stopped doing will become the stuff that I don't do as often, that in God's time, and I put the work in, will become the stuff that I don't do no more. That's why the literature says, how can we explain the sudden lifting of the desire to use dope? Got to put the work in, man. The desire to just live, man. Who can explain the sudden lifting of it? Like that lets me know something happens in here when you put the work in. And I didn't understand. It started with that person at the door that hugged me when I first came in, with me smelling all funky, and said, "You're in the right place, keep coming back." I didn't know that's where the process started, because my perception changed because y'all didn't look like crackheads and dope fiends and junkies and winos. You didn't look like that. So immediately my perception changed. So even in Narcotics Anonymous, when the pain gets great enough, right, seems like to be my motivating factor to want to do something different. I remember asking this guy, would he be my sponsor? So I went to this guy named Calvin, man, who was in a wheelchair. He took all of us in like his little sons, man. We would go over there. Calvin was smart as shit, man. He got burnt up in a fire. He was in a wheelchair, but he knew the literature, man. And I remember asking Calvin to be my sponsor, man. And he said, okay, man, I have my basic text and my Mr. T starter kit, right? And I'm ready, man, you know. And I said, hey, I'm ready to work steps, Calvin. He said, oh, yeah. I said, yeah. He had a cigarette in his hand because he liked to smoke cigarettes. He had a hook on a prosthetic limb. And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, okay. He said, well, I want you to go home and I want you to come back and tell me how many times is the word we in the first step. So I said, okay. So I went home, I took my basic text, and I got my highlighter. I started highlighting we. I went back to Calvin, I said, I'm ready, man. He said, you sure you're ready? I said, yeah. He said, well, how many times is the word we in the first step? And if I can remember clearly, I told him something like 67 or 68 times. And Calvin looked at me and he said, see, that's why you don't know shit. I said, what are you talking about? This is my first assignment. I want to get it right. He said, see, that's why you don't know shit. He said, the word we is in the first step 2 times. We admitted that we were powerless over our addiction. I was like, well, I be damned. He showed me my thinking was so screwed up that I thought I'm supposed to go back and holler. He said, I didn't ask you to read the first step, but it was a good way to get you to do it, didn't it? It was right there in the first step. But my thought process from smoking so much crack, it didn't make sense. So sometimes Calvin said, I got to give it to you in crackhead sense. For it to make sense, man. Because the longer you stay here, the clearer things get, right? So now that I'm seeing things in a different perspective, right, and my understanding of situations is not that as a dope fiend, perhaps my decision to react to what I'm going through will be different. Don't make good decisions on a consistent basis. So let me run this past somebody because it tells me I got a bright idea, but somebody say, Sean, you might not want to do that. Following some suggestions. And in following some suggestions, now something has changed. What has changed is my thinking has changed. We said and recovery is an act of change in my thinking, my behavior, and my ideas. My thinking has started to change. I'm 23, man. I'm in a room with a bunch of people that are the age of my parents. We don't think alike. We're on the same level. They want to sit around and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. I want to chase behind every woman that winks at me or some shit. So what I'm talking about is, man, not allowing my disease to interfere with the blessings that happen. I'm not talking about the resentment. I'm talking about my inability to accept personal responsibility. Ain't nobody gonna get me the joy, the happiness, and the freedom that y'all talk about but me. Nobody's gonna get me that sense of love that I wanna love myself but me. So when I come in, I get a sponsor, right? We start practicing some principles, and he's showing me the principles embedded in the steps. What I find myself now is I have a decision to make in the course of any decision, because you know better don't mean you do better. Speed limit 55, and hell, some of us still drive 70. Because you know better don't mean you do better. It just means that you have a choice to make, and the choice says I can continue to make choices based on showing self-centeredness, or I can try this innate shit. When y'all say show unconditional love, show empathy, hug a newcomer even when you don't like them. You know what I'm saying? Come through the meeting. Don't forget when somebody hugged your stink behind, Sean. Do some service work. You know what I'm saying? How about when somebody say, give me a ride home from a meeting, and you know you ain't going that way, you still take them? You know, how about when I take the principles from up in here and I practice them out there, because we can come in here and hug a newcomer and don't know them from a can of paint and go home and won't hug your own damn kids. So when you're talking about a change is going to come, where's the change really at? Is it right in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous? Because we go, that's a great guy, that Sean. Look at him, he's sweeping, he's dumping ashtrays, he's doing a lot of service work. But shit, I go home and the house is filthy. Sometimes it feels good to look good. And we address this up all day long to look good. But on the inside, man, do you really want some help? Do you really want to address the behaviors? You know, do you really want a change to come? Because now it says you got to take a deeper look at yourself, Sean. And sometimes I don't want to look at me. It's easier for me to look at you. It's easier for me to blame my mother who closed the door on me and watch another man come between our relationship. It's easier for me to look at that than for me to remember how I stole from her. It's easier for me to get distracted. That's why so many ways we'll change sponsors. We'll change sponsors because it's easier to change sponsors than to change the person. You know, I don't like my sponsor, so I'm gonna change sponsor. So this whole process, man, when we talking about a change is going to come, man, it talks about it's an ongoing change. The sixth step talking about it's a lifelong process. We talking about change, and in the sixth step, it also talks about that it's painful and difficult. It ain't never easy for me to change some shit that makes me feel good. It feels good. Why would I want to change it? I never took one piece of dope and got up from the table and said, y'all can have the rest, man. I'm out of here. Hell no. I did it all. And I kept doing it even when I was told to stop. Even when the pain came, I still kept doing it. So now we're talking about a change is going to come. You stick around here long enough and you get in touch with a power greater than yourself, whomever you choose to call it, some stuff going to change. And if it don't change, you find yourself sitting here just collecting some clean time. But I realized today, you got to let me know when I got it. I realized to know today that even my defects of character pick up some clean time. You don't think because you got clean that there's a part of yourself that says you still want to do some dirty shit. Hell no. Some of my defects got some clean time too. Some of them got years clean. Some of them got months clean. Some of them got a few days clean. You know, because it's a lifelong process, and when you become entirely ready, and in the course of it being painful and difficult, sometimes, man, it ain't quite as easy to let go of the behaviors, man. It ain't always easy to let go of the behaviors. That's why we can't judge folks up in here. When you look at folks with 30 years and 25 years, say, oh, they still doing the same shit. Okay, so what are you saying? When you accumulate a certain amount of clean time that there's no character, there's no defects in your character anymore? That's ridiculous. If it is, there's no work for me to put into. My literature says that ongoing recovery is dependent upon a relationship with a loving God who will care for us and do for us what we find impossible to do for ourselves. Sometimes it ain't easy to let go of some behaviors. It's not easy to accept change. Sometimes it's not easy to accept, damn it, I'm an addict on some day. But when I think about what it feels like when the money going and the dope is going and I done fucked up again, let me get my butt up and go to a meeting. Best to understand than to be understood. Let me show unconditional love even when it's not coming back to me. Because this is what I need to do to keep my spirit intact, because if I ever stop forgetting what it was like, I'm going to stop coming. So a change must come. And the change happens every day in my life, because when God opened my eyes and allowed me an opportunity to realize I'm in another day, a change has taken place. There's a spiritual awakening in all 12 steps. It don't just happen at one. There's a spiritual awakening in all 12 steps. The broader the base, the higher the point of freedom. And what I found out that y'all told me, right, when I get to the point of freedom, ain't nobody there but me and God anyway. So am I working on the change that's going to come? Am I participating in the change just so y'all can like me? Or am I participating in the change, man, to allow my spirit and my relationship with God to increase and enhance itself? I'm no longer that person that wants to be so accepted amongst Narcotics Anonymous people. That's why when I come to a meeting, man, I don't come looking for an atmosphere of recovery. Damn it, I bring one. When a newcomer come through the door, they hear the same song, one band, one sound. Everybody come in here bring an atmosphere of recovery. If you got one day clean, some stuff has changed. You can tell somebody at that bus stop who's struggling with using some dope because of a 12-step program called Narcotics Anonymous, I didn't use today. I didn't use no dope today. So you come in the door with an atmosphere of recovery, I bring it, you bring it, we all bring it. And when they come through the door, they see a bunch of people that's a dope fiends and no good mothers and deadbeat dads that are living productive lives as good citizens, and they go, damn. Y'all don't look like y'all use. I want to be like y'all. They hearing the same thing. Any addict can stop using dope, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live, man. So where I was at 23 and where I've gone throughout the years of my life, I'm in a place now that says a change is going to come. And what's going to come is my relationship with God. It changes, man. In closing, man, like our steps is based on God, self, and another human being. That's what it's based on. And if you forget that, it's the predecessors that should remind you. It's God, self, and another human being. It's in our 12 steps from the top to bottom and the bottom to the top. Well, first, you don't believe? Let's take a look at it, right? 12 steps, it talks about selfless service. Steps 1, 2, and 3 is the foundation, but the foundation ain't complete until you do a third step. So let's start with the 11th step and go up. 11th step talking about what? Prayer meditation. That's a God step. I sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. The 10th step says what? I continue to take personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, properly admit it. That's a self step. The 9th step says what? I make direct amends to all people whenever wrong, except when to do so with them or others. You got God, self, and another human being. So you go from the top down. The 3rd step said I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. That's a God step. The 4th step said I did what? I did a more of an inventory of myself. That's self. The 5th step says what? I admitted to God, myself, and to another human being. That's another human being step. You got God, self, and another human being. It's in our steps from the top down and the bottom up. So you got 6, 7, and 8. Well, 6 is a process, a lifelong process. 8 is a lifelong process. 7th step is humbly asking God to remove some stuff. God is always in the middle of everything. So you say, well, what happened to 12, 1, 2, and 3? Well, 12, it talks about the spiritual awakening. That's a God step. But it ain't just exclusive there, because the spiritual awakening happens in all of the steps. So you got God in 12. You don't graduate, you go back to 1. One says we admit it, but what they're really saying in past tense, I admit it. That's the self step. The second step says the sanity piece. Can't believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That's the tangible evidence. The third step is where we talk about the intangible God. The second step is tangible. Another human being, a sponsor, another recovering addict, which is the ultimate weapon against my disease. So the steps is all about God's self and another human being, man. A change is going to come. You stay around here long enough and understand when you get a sponsor, what means something to you at one phase in your recovery, to take on a deeper understanding and meaning at another phase. That's why sponsorship is not the heartbeat of this program. That's the bullshit. Sponsorship don't overlap the ultimate weapon, which is being another recovering addict. Like the ultimate authority, it uses the word ultimate in the sake of another recovering addict and the God of your understanding. Sponsorship, not the heartbeat. In that orange sponsorship pamphlet, it says, when two addicts share their recovery, the heart of NA beats. It don't say it's no heartbeat. It just says the heart of NA beats. So what that means is if I got a sponsor over here and a sponsee over here, and that sponsee is not, I have a working relationship with their sponsor, how the fuck is their heart beating? They just got a sponsor by name. That's why the home group sponsors the newer members so they can pick and choose one for themselves. So when any addict come through that door, they gonna live. They gonna live. And it don't mean that they're supposed to die because they don't have a sponsor. I have a responsibility to love them and let them know that they ain't never got to use again, man. Never got to die from the horrors of this disease. Time's up, bro? Okay. So in closing, man, I want to let y'all know, man, that I'm truly passionate about Narcotics Anonymous. I grew up in this, you know. And I know today I'm not the same little boy at 23 years old when I came in here in 1990 that I am at 53. Today I got some good relationships with women and don't expect nothing in return but unconditional love. Today it's okay for me to hug another man and tell him I love him without feeling the stigma of it feels kind of funny telling a man that. So if nobody told you they love you today, man, I tell you all that I love you all in my own special way. My name is Sean. I'm an addict. Thanks for letting me share.